This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place.
Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place podcast. My name is Nate.
My name is Brandon.
And happy World Kindness Day. Be kind.
Be kind.
That's something we need to practice this week.
Yeah?
It's being kind.
Why do we need to practice being kind?
Because it's hard to be mean. I mean, it's easy to be mean this week because of our victories last week.
We'll point out you're wearing a BYU hat on our Zoom call here. We did announce, well, we've announced many times our allegiance. And so you may guess that we are very happy with the outcome of Saturday's game. But we're going to choose kindness, and that's all the gloating I'm going to do. That's it.
Can we just say, though,
okay.
It was, I mean, I'm not ripping on the game at all or on the Utes at all. I think they've been punished enough.
Yes.
But I told my wife that night, it's always fun having that outcome and the excitement that comes with it. But man, the heartburn during the game and the stress that comes with it, it's so rough.
It was a
Like it's almost
very,
better to watch a game like that. If you already know the outcome, you can watch it and it's fine, you know. But during the game, I mean, I was losing my mind. Like I needed a punching bag. I was frustrated. And I knew and it was hard. Even at halftime, I was like already trying to come to terms with the fact that I think we're losing this game
I was the
and
same. Yep.
just starting to go through the stages of grief. You know, I was getting ready to go start it and but I'm like, oh my goodness, Nate, there's still a whole half left. There's still a chance. The game's not over. And I don't know if I told you this already, but when they sacked Jake for what looked like it was the game-ending play,
Hmm.
I just noticed that the back didn't do a good job blocking. So I automatically hit rewind on my remote because I thought the game was over, and I just wanted to watch that play again to see like what the heck was he thinking.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even like get in his way. Like if you just would have gotten his way, he could have got the ball off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was just like, and I was mad as could be. Then like whatever. And luckily I didn't change the channel. I just went back to live TV to see, how they were celebrating. The youths were celebrating. Then all of a sudden Jake snapping the ball again. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Is this
What?
thing broken?
What? Um, wait, what just happened? So I had to rewind it again to see the holding call, the quote unquote phantom holding call.
Phantom.
And then I'm like, oh my goodness. So that was like I don't remember a time watching any sports game where I literally thought we just lost the game.
Well,
In my
the whole
mind, we
team,
just lost
the
the
whole
game.
stadium was cheering, and they're showing them like they won. They thought they won.
Oh yeah, like I went from complete low to hope and to it
Elation
was the wildest swing of emotions that I've ever experienced in my life,
of any
where I
game
went
ever.
from where I went from wanting to smash something because I was so upset till I still wanted to smash something because I was so hyped up. Like I just wanted to do. Oh man, before the game, I was super tired. I'm like, why is it at 8:15 at night? And I think I fell asleep around 7. Like I just passed out in the chair. And anyways, I was like, I would kill for a blowout. I guess I wanted a BYU blowout, but either way, just so I could go to bed early because I was
Right.
so tired. And then
And
I
you were
couldn't
so
sleep.
wired.
I don't think I went to bed till like 2 in the morning.
I go to bed till
So
three.
really, because
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm like, my heart's racing, I'm pumping. I wanted to go I mean, I could go play some football, smash something, or get in a fight or something. Like it was just crazy going from exhaustion to wide awake.
Yeah, agreed. I was the same boat. Yeah, I sat there when it happened and he got what looked to be sacked, right? I just stood there just in disbelief. But there was like this feeling, I was like, it can't be over, right? It's not really over. And then it wasn't.
And the miracles
Matt
happen.
Matt texted me and said, imagine how there had to be at least one person that rage quit after that happened. That after they
Oh,
saw him
oh,
get
I
sacked,
was
they
just
just turned the TV off.
oh, I was saying that this morning to all my pickleball BYU friends, saying that one or two things. I bet you so many people turned off the TV, turned the channel, or people threw the remote at their TV and broke their TV
And
because
then they
that's what
couldn't
happens,
watch
right,
that
in
crazy
football
game.
games. And then, can you imagine if you turned off the TV and it's so late at night and you go to bed? Odds are you probably don't check your phone,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're so mad. You go to bed and you wake up the next morning to find out that BYU won.
So mad,
Like you
dude.
would
I'd be
be,
so mad.
you're not mad, but like you'd be like in shock, right? Like, wait, what? What?
Mm-hmm.
I even seriously, I woke up Sunday morning and I thought it was a dream. I'm like, there's no way we just like I had to like verify on the internet that it was really happened that we did win. Because I seriously I went through the grieving process of like we just lost
Mm-hmm.
when they sacked Jake. So what a
It
we're
was
gonna be
like the
talking about that
real
for years to
life.
come.
I guess it wasn't completely the same, but that Coke commercial where everybody's watching the game and then they're like, "Oh, he missed the field goal, but there's a flag on the field." You know what I'm talking about? I think there's like a radio
It was
version
a
and a TV version of it, but I'm like, it was the real life thing. We're like, "No, he missed it. There's a flag on the field." Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
it's like ringing a bell, but I don't remember
Have you watched even a football game
exactly.
this year, Nate? It's on a million times during every football game. You
Is it?
pay attention. I'll send it
I
to you.
just
I'll
like the
send it to
Dr.
you.
Pepper commercial. That's one I like.
Fansville.
The whole we don't need a backup. The Texas quarterback. Can't remember
Oh
his
yeah,
name. Have you seen it?
Quinn
It's a little bit
Ewers.
older now. Yeah, we don't need to back up. I don't care if he has famous relatives who and is good looking or something like that. It's good.
Yeah, I like the Fansville ones. They're fun. It's fun to see an update every season. But yeah, man, it was a wild weekend. Not gonna lie, wild week with the election, the game, and also the reason we have gathered here today to discuss our topic. This noteworthy movie that just came out over the weekend.
Yeah, which has been pretty well, I think the hype has been big
Since the
for
preview
us.
came out.
Well, right, just for Utahns in general, or I guess members of the church because of the subject matter.
Yeah.
But I feel like from all the pre-screenings that it's got even hyped up even more, just along everybody with how good it is from the critics.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Before we get too far or get out of the way, there's no way you guys can say we don't do the topics you tell us to do because a fan suggested this episode. To be fair, we were already planning on doing it, but someone sent us a message uh, after our Harry Potter episode, noting that this doesn't have anything to do with Utah. Neither does the movie we're talking about per se. But if we do it anyway, and the answer is yes, we will find a way. Maybe we should even make a qualifier. We're not a church podcast in any way, but if it's Utah or church related, there's a good chance we're going to cover it. Right? That's
Right.
we're called "This Is a Place," which is like a church saying. So you can construe it some way. We're going to find a way to talk about it if it's something like this. We got to do it. That's what the people want. and what we want to do as well.
Right.
So yeah, from the
This is
beginning, when I saw the preview, I thought we gotta see this movie. First of all, I'm like super excited to see this movie, and second of all, it's gonna be an episode because love horror, love the church tie-in, so there had to be a way to talk about it.
yeah. Yeah, when I originally heard of it, I just heard about two sister missionaries who get basically kidnapped, kind of.
Yeah,
And so I was like curious about that. And then when you start hearing like, oh, like you said, it's more of a thriller or a scary movie, so to
psychological
speak.
horror.
Yeah, yeah. Then I'm like, oh, even better. And then from the critics were saying that it was tastefully done. Like it doesn't really, and it doesn't. I don't think it really bashes the church. It's more,
Mm,
well, okay, back up. It more is bashing religion and
religion in
making you
general.
think about religion. So it wasn't, I think they used the Sister Missionaries for the movie because that's the most,
It was a low-hanging fruit.
well, not hanging fruit, but the fact that we do go door to door,
Hmm.
right? I know Jehovah's Witnesses do it, but this one's a little different because Jehovah's Witnesses do it in their own place that they live, right? Where the
Yeah.
Sister Missionaries
So I think it's fair. So the
are
movie we're
not.
talking about today, if you don't know, is called Heretic, starring Hugh Grant and then other people. Did you realize Topher Grace is in this movie?
At the very end, we were
Yeah, I
watching the
didn't know that was
credits,
him.
and
So
my
I was like,
wife goes, "Oh, that's who it was."
I thought it was Jake Gyllenhaal. I told my wife that I was like,
Really?
was that Jake Gyllenhaal? But definitely was not.
Topher. I could spend the 5 minutes talking about him, just how he thought he was the Shizniz,
Yeah, no,
leads the
he's
'70s show, and then
no basically
he's like
nobody in
the
this movie.
yeah, he's a D-list actor, and Kunis, how you say her name, and Ashton Kutcher are both,
Mm,
A-listers, and then, or at
one
least
of them
were
is in prison.
A-listers. One's in prison, right? But
And
it's
then
just funny that he
Fez.
left the show because he thought he was too big for it, and now he hasn't had any quote unquote breakout roles since.
Yeah.
So
It was fun to
good
see
for
him. It
him.
was it was a fun role to have him in, but I think we're gonna do this movie in kind of two parts because it's really hard to talk about this movie without spoiling it because the previews, the trailers, they don't show you hardly anything. They show you very
Oh
little.
no, yeah, because they can't.
Yeah, it's ruined if you show so much. So I think maybe we'll talk what we can without spoiling it for a good chunk of the episode. But then we have to have like a spoiler warning at the end, and so
When
we
you
can
say
talk
good
about it.
chunk, you mean five? You mean 5 minutes?
It's gonna be more than 5 minutes. Let's be real.
Okay. All
But
right. Well, I was gonna
we
say, and
we
how do we
have
talk about
to
it without talking about it?
we have to talk to each other about this movie. We have to get some things off our chest, and we can't do that without spoiling it.
Talking about it.
So just that warning. If you want to go see this movie, you don't want to be spoiled. We'll give you a good warning, a good chance to stop the episode, but
And you
we're
can
gonna
go back later, and after you watch the
go
movie,
listen to
come
it
back and
after.
re-listen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think you should.
and see if you agree with our thoughts.
First and foremost, would you recommend this movie to people that are members of the church?
That are members?
Let's say anybody, but I think specifically more for members. Like I think if you're not a member, yeah, you should go see it. It's pretty intense, pretty fun. But if you are a member, is this something you'd recommend they see?
Oh, man, I'm okay with it. I was okay with it.
Some might
I
not
think
be.
members, for the most part, there's going to be some members that would probably be offended by it, but there are also the ones that get offended by other things as well.
Hmm.
So, so I don't know. I I don't I didn't find anything like I said, I don't feel like they're bashing the church. I don't think the movie was set up to to bash the church or make Mormons,
Not
quote unquote Mormons,
specifically at the
look bad.
church.
Specifically, it was basically religion that the movie's going after. Religion as a whole.
There was one portion, maybe like a few minutes in the movie that did talk about anti material stuff that's typically used as like anti Mormon material. You know what I mean?
Right, but it was also to prove his point about religion.
Right.
So it wasn't, yeah.
And there was one other thing in there that did give me a little bit of cringe towards the beginning. You know what I'm talking about? Do we spoil that here? What happens?
Say that again.
There was one part that maybe borders on sacrilegious, just a little bit, when the sister missionaries are
Yeah.
walking around. Do we tell people what happens?
Are we talking about the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little kind of like, huh?
It kind of set up things later in the movie a little bit, but also
A
was
little
like,
bit.
that didn't have
A
to be
little
there.
bit. It was, yeah. We'll get to that. Let's get to that. Let's
Okay.
let's continue our spoiler-free
I would also,
portion.
so I'll throw in my 2 cents that I think you should see it if you like horror. And it's not even like a jump scary
It's
movie.
it's not even I wouldn't would you to
It's
me when I
it's
think of horror movies, and maybe you're right. I usually kind of tend to think of like paranormal
mm,
or ghost horror movies. I don't know, but I guess you
well
could put the
well let's
slasher
hold
movies in
on.
that as
Who
well.
knows? We're not going to tell people if it is that or not. Maybe it is paranormal.
Okay, fine. They don't really
But
advertise it
there's not
that
like
way.
it's
It's
not
more
a
like
jump
a
scary movie. Like if you're
no,
worried about jump scares, there's maybe like two jump scares that I remember, maybe,
kind of. Yeah.
but it's more just like intense. Like you are just I was just stressed out this whole movie. I don't know
Yeah.
if you felt the same, but like also being a missionary and having gone through that experience, like I was stressed. I was really feeling it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you have trauma from your mission, anything like that, maybe it's not the best thing for you to see if it will bring back some of those feelings. But just having gone through that experience, it was because I just put myself in their shoes, like
Like,
what
yeah,
would you do in this
how do you get out of
situation?
here?
And I had something in my mission, not anything close to similar, but I did have a moment where someone was kind of testing us, like in the happens in the movie, and a moment where I'm like, we need to leave and get out of here. So it kind of brought some of those feelings back, but not to say it was anywhere near what happens in this movie. But I do think it is worth mentioning the church is not so high on this movie for obvious reasons. I think it's worth it
Oh,
to read their statement.
I didn't know they had a statement.
It was in August they came out with this. So it says the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like other prominent global faith communities, often finds itself the focus of the attention of the entertainment industry. Some portrayals are fair and accurate, but others resort to stereotypes or gross misrepresentations that are in poor taste and have real life consequences for people of faith. While it's not new, a number of recent productions depict lifestyles and practices blatantly inconsistent with the teachings of the church. Others irresponsibly mischaracterize the safety and conduct of our volunteer missionaries. We understand the fascination some in the media have with the church, but regret their portrayals often rely on sensationalism and inaccuracies that do not fairly and fully reflect the lives of our church members or the sacred beliefs that they hold dear. Millions of church members around the world are deeply dedicated to family fidelity service and the gospel of Jesus Christ. We invite all to consult reliable sources of information and listen to the voices and authentic experiences of individuals and families who find great joy and satisfaction in living these principles. The stories of our faith is best seen in the countless lives of those who strive daily to follow our Savior Jesus Christ. So that was in response basically to this movie. I think the main thing to take from it is this shows missionaries in a very dangerous situation. And I mean, there was that movie, The Saratov Approach, which was a
Yeah.
true story, right? But this
Yeah.
one's like showing what could happen because you're putting these missionaries in this situation. Two young
Yeah. Well,
girls
the
going
serve
around to random
that's a good
doors.
point. So that I feel it's very similar, the movies,
Mm-hmm.
except that the say it again,
Saratov, I
Sertov approach,
think that's what it's called. Yeah.
they were more held for ransom or something like that, right? So, but the same thing, like they're in a bad situation, how do you get out of it? And yeah, I guess we'll talk about that when we get to like the whole spoiler section, so we don't spoil anything here. But yeah, so if you're thinking, is this going to be like what's the name of that new company that keeps making like religious films?
Or like Angel Studios
Angel
or whatever.
Studios. Yeah, if you think it's going to be something like that, it's not. It's definitely more Hollywood. Um, it's not. It's not the work and the glory. It's
Not Saints and Soldiers.
yeah. So it's a little darker,
It's not Mr. Krueger's
and
Christmas.
I don't. Yeah. So it's definitely not a religious movie in that aspect.
I wouldn't
So you're
say
not going to
any
walk.
active member of the church had any input in this movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because there's still even some, and we'll talk about in the sport thing, like that's not the way things go.
Hmm.
As far as the mission goes and the structure of the mission and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. The
So that's
structure. That was one
that
of my
was
biggest hangups.
yeah, going back, yeah. So
So what can we say? I can say Hugh Grant was amazing in this movie. I loved how creepy and how good he was at
oh
his.
yeah. Like, well, you weren't sure if you loved him, hated him, or whatever, right?
Yeah, he
He
was
did
like,
good. He played it perfectly.
oh, so good. Like his best role I've seen him in, to be frank. Like he's been fine in movies, but he's never been like, oh, this is amazing. But I thought he just played it so well. Like he played that part and acted so well in it. Like
Yeah.
I was terrified of him the whole time, but also loved him. What else can we say?
And I also think too, like on the other side of the coin, that if you don't care about the church, it's still, like I said, it's not trying to promote the church in any way either. So
Right.
I think anybody can go watch it. So it's not,
You could
and
construe it as faith building if you want to look at it one way. You could come out of this having your faith built in a way.
or
If you really want to go that
or
direction
or dissolved.
or dissolved. But I don't think the goal of the movie is necessarily faith building. But if you want to look at it that way, you definitely can. And I choose to. I thought the Sister Missionaries were pretty good too.
Yeah, they did a decent job.
I
It
do know they
was
both grew up members, so they had a little bit of a
the actors did.
uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they both had that upbringing. So they knew about the church and they didn't disclose that in their auditions, but that's probably why they played it so well because they know what a sister missionary is and they know about the church. And so
No,
that's what the director said. They were like a perfect choice and nobody could have played it better because they knew what they were doing with that role. So I think that's
interesting.
cool. It would I mean probably someone wouldn't have been in this movie if they were active because of the subject matter, but it was cool at least they had that background and they could help with maybe some inaccuracies. But to that point, there were a lot of things that were I'd say 90%
Okay.
of it was accurate. Do you think that's
Yeah,
fair?
sure.
Maybe that's a little high, but there was a couple things that yeah, I was like,
I think it just as the structure of how a mission works for the
yeah,
most, I don't know.
that was
That
lacking a
part of
bit.
it was weird. Like Topher Grace's character, and like
Yeah,
that didn't make any sense to me.
no, it didn't.
So stuff like that.
The elder.
Yeah, the elder, and yeah, we'll get into it, I guess. But did we do enough to talk about the spoiler free? Are we ready to talk about the spoilers? Or do you have
One
anything
thing
else you
maybe
want to
we
add?
should spoil if you don't like this movie wasn't really that bad in like content. I can't even remember if there was language. Like the sister missionaries definitely didn't swear. Pretty sure they didn't. But
I
there
don't know. That's
was,
a good question.
I don't think there was like a lot of language. There's no nudity. There's nothing that's like really objectionable except for some gore. And that's probably the biggest thing. And then a really, really strange out of left field opening monologue that was completely unnecessary.
Huh. Let's see here. So yeah, it gives for Kids in Mind is a cool website, but I think now they want you to like donate to be able to get all the
Mm,
information. But they have, as far as sex and nudity, it's a 3 out of 10 because they do have some conversations. And then The violence and gore was 6 out of 10. And then what's the last one? I think it's usually violence, right? Oh, language was a 3. So you're right.
Yeah, very little language.
So
This
it
is
was very,
funny.
very mild.
So I use Common Sense Media. They say you should be
Is
age
it
15 plus to see this, and it gives violence and scariness a 4. And don't look at it because it gives spoilers. The sex and romance and stuff, it really was the opening sequence. And then a funny thing to me is the language it lists. So it gives the language as a 2 out of 5. It says infrequent
mhm.
language includes ass, damn, peen, balls, freaking, and hell. So I guess some sister missionaries do use some swear words because they say peen and freaking.
But yeah, the highest rating part is the violence and gore, which really what yeah, I don't know.
Before we get into spoilers, it does have pretty good reviews in the Rotten Tomatoes world. People seem to like the movie, right? If you give any credence to that, it's got a 93% for the critics and a 78% for the audience. So I'd say that's a pretty favorable, especially for a horror movie. I mean, the A24 studios, they do pretty good they do horror pretty well, in my opinion, except for a couple instances that we have seen. But people like this movie. What would you say? What is this how would you rank this movie?
Or what?
Would you give it? I got a 5 stars
5 stars.
out of 5 stars.
And then I think it's watchable. I like any movie now, since we see so many, that can keep my attention and not feel like you're looking at the clock going, oh, how much longer is this movie? I call it a win. I feel like the first almost all 80%, 70, 80% of the movie was good. And then spoiler alert, I feel like horror movies, scary movies have a really hard time ending the movie
Yeah,
without either making it weird or ruining it. And this
it did
one
end weird.
was, it ended weird. It was just a weird ending. So I'm like,
It was
uh,
rushed. It felt rushed.
yeah, a little bit rushed, a little bit weird. I feel like they could have done something better or different.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, I think it's worth, and that's really what we should make our scale if we do like a movie podcast. I think we talked about this before, right? It's like, do you watch it full fare? Do you watch it a matinee? Do you wait for it
Mm,
to come to streaming? Or do you wait? I mean, do you buy it on demand, rent it on demand, or do you wait for it to come free streaming or whatever? And this one, I would say like if I paid the full fair price, I would be okay with it. I
yeah,
wouldn't, I don't think it's like you got to rush out and see it today, but I thought overall it was good. And maybe it was a little bit more enticing for me to go see because of the whole missionary aspect,
right,
curiosity. So if it were, but even so, if it wasn't two sister missionaries, I don't know what else it could have been to make the movie go.
right.
Would I've still seen it? Probably. And would I have still liked it the same? Probably. It was intense.
It was intense. Talking a little bit about the representation. I mean, there were some things that got pretty right. They even had like a caffeine reference that I was surprised about. That they said he made a comment that they don't drink caffeine, and they're like, well, it's probably best if you don't, but it's not like a rule. Just, because they were drinking just like soda, right? So I thought that was interesting that they kind
Coke.
of, yeah, Coke, that they didn't latch on to the old myth of we can't drink caffeine at all. I was like, huh, that was interesting. But
But
then
it
other
is
things,
true. There was missions and
yeah, some missions wouldn't
that
let you drink it.
they wouldn't you couldn't drink Coke. And
Yeah,
that's so interesting. I mean, we could spend probably if again not talking about religion, but it is interesting how BYU all of a sudden is like, yeah, we're gonna start selling caffeinated Coke on campus. Like
yeah,
forever it was
caffeine
taboo and now
free.
it's okay. So still waiting for the coffee to come through. Still waiting for that.
Keep waiting. I don't think it's gonna come.
No, that one I don't think they could make it work. But anyways, anything
Any others
else?
that struck out that like I'm just trying to think like there were some things I was surprised by. I was like, that was actually pretty accurate. That was good. They had the pamphlets that looked pretty close to what we actually would pass out, like the pass along pamphlets as a
Sure.
missionary.
Things have
Um,
changed
they
since
showed
I was on a mission.
they showed the actual Book of Mormon, of course, and I thought it was kind of cool. The Sister Missionaries had like the bigger ones with the wider margins all marked
I
up
make
and
notes.
stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that looks like a Sister Missionary scriptures. They did say one of the Sister Missionaries was from Orem, or did she say Ogden?
Ogden.
She's from
The other one was
Ogden.
said Salt Lake, but she's originally from Philly.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Um, yeah, I think one of the biggest glaring misses was the structure of both the church and the mission, because they could have referred to the elder who was coming to check up on them to try and find him. It was almost like he was treated as just like another missionary. He was older, but he was like their mission president, is what it seemed like to me. They should have called him the mission
Maybe.
president.
Oh, maybe.
And they
Not
kept
really.
referencing having to get back to the ward missionaries and the Relief Society, which, you know, could be true. That could happen in a mission. You need to go to help the Relief Society or whatever. Um, and one of the things that bugged me the most is that they kept calling him Mr. Reed. That was not right. He would have been Brother Reed. Come on. They would have called him Brother Reed.
They would?
Yeah. Wouldn't you call everybody in
Why?
your mission brother or sister?
The but not an investigator.
Yeah, I would.
You would?
Oh
You would
yeah.
did?
Oh yeah.
No, no, nope, we didn't.
You didn't call people hermano or hermana?
I don't believe so. If they were an investigator, no.
Huh. We would even so like when we start teaching people, we'd say we're gonna refer to you as brother or sister. So I guess maybe people don't
That's
always
why
do that.
your mission's so messed up. You didn't baptize anybody because you offended everybody.
Mm, okay. Thanks a
I
lot.
don't know. Am I getting fined now?
They had an exchange where they talked about baptisms and conversions that was a little awkward too. That felt a little that was a little weird.
That's the only thing I don't think they mention is how long the sisters have been out, right? Or did they?
Yeah, I don't think they did.
I mean, you kind of assume that one of them was newer compared to the other one,
Hmm.
but maybe they weren't. Maybe they're both the same amount of time. And who was the senior companion? You assumed the one was,
The
but
dark hair.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you thought of that we can tell without giving away a spoiler?
No, like I said, the structure of, I mean, I think they did a good job. Like, oh, we got visits to go on, so they go do their visits. But it made it look to me, and I don't think this spoils the movie, with the whole toil for grace, it's like that, is that they live at the church.
Yeah, it almost did seem like
And then
that.
they have to, yeah.
And it looked nothing like a church either, which of course
I mean,
nobody's
it
going to give
could
them
have
permission.
been like it could have been, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't look like a normal LDS church.
Yeah, and where did this take place? Was it in Colorado?
I can't remember. Did it ever say where it was?
It seemed like it was Boulder, Colorado to me.
In like the late fall, early winter?
It was filmed in Canada. I don't know. That was my guess. Was I saw some things saying Boulder, so I just assumed it was Colorado. Not sure if that's true or not, but Maybe it's supposed to take place in Canada where it's filmed. I did see this just barely. It took
Oh, it says Heretic takes place in a rural Colorado town,
Okay, cool.
but it was filmed in
This article,
Canada.
recent article says it only took Heretic one weekend to become one of A24's highest grossing movies ever. So it's doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, yeah. I think the reviews, like you said, have been really positive. Plus, there's not a whole lot out there to see right now, in my opinion,
Hmm.
unless you want to go see Terrifier 3.
Um,
Oh, did you hear? And we're gonna have to do another. They want to remake Silent Night, Deadly Night
oh yeah,
because of
that was filmed in Utah.
Terrifier. Like, so I'm saying we're gonna have to watch that now and do an episode on it.
Hmm. Well,
And
maybe
I want to
sooner
watch
rather
it.
than
But I
later.
guess, I guess that movie was like ahead of its time. Like it got basically thrown out of theaters, even though it was doing well because of how
How sacrilegious it
graphic it
was to
was.
have a Christmas horror movie.
But now people don't care. So here we are.
Here we are. Nothing sacred anymore, obviously. Okay. Well, if nothing else, I think we need to give our warning now. If you
Warning.
listen, if you listen any further, this movie will be completely spoiled. It won't be as fun to watch it for the first time.
So if you have no plans on watching it, we'll just give you the rundown.
We'll just give it to you. Trust me. If you have any interest in seeing this movie, don't keep listening until maybe the last
Yeah.
couple minutes of the episode. But
So are you saying this is a spoiler alert? Spoiler alert?
this is a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler
Spoiler
alert?
alert. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So someone says you didn't tell me this was a spoiler alert?
We have officially
Gotcha.
said the word spoiler alert. So everything from now on, we are not held responsible for ruining this movie.
And here we
We
go.
go.
What the heck were they? The beginning, like you said, we got to start at the beginning. The beginning of the movie, the Sister Missionaries are sitting at a bus stop and they're talking about condoms.
And porn.
And well, no, they start with condoms first, right? You're like, okay, weird.
Very
And
weird.
then it turns into
They
her
are sitting
saying
on
that
a
shh.
park bench that's advertising condoms, I
I
think.
think, yeah. So you're like, oh, okay, that's why they got stuck on
Okay,
that
I
subject.
guess.
That triggered the subject. But then the other girl starts talking about a porno she watched before she went out on her mission and
Or
just
you
how
don't know if it's
degrading it was.
before. Like they could have been suggesting it was during the mission too, you know.
True, that's true. But in the thing is like, okay, number one, if you are currently watching porn or did watch porn before your mission, I don't think a lot of elders and or sisters would admit that to their companion.
They wouldn't talk
I don't
about
think
that.
that's something they would talk about. I mean, I know of missionaries who broke the laws of chastity and they wouldn't get graphic about how they would tell story like, yeah,
Talking in detail about a
but
porn they
whatever.
watched.
Yeah. Yeah, about the porn or
And
how they
also
fornicated with
how
their
that porno
girlfriend or
led to
boyfriend.
them knowing the church was true.
Right. Yeah, that was just very awkward and like, but that brings up a question I have. My wife was like, "Yeah," I'm like, I feel like more than once on my mission, even like an MTC, the subject of sex comes up, right? And I'm assuming everyone in my district in the MTC was a virgin, and so everybody has their speculations on how things work,
Right.
I guess is the best way to put it. And so there was discussions like, and you'd have the discussion in high school or anything else. And there's a few on my companions that would bring like ask if, are you excited to have sex when you get married and stuff like that. So we had some
But it wasn't
awkward
that graphic.
conversation,
It
but
wasn't
I
graphic
never
enough.
once said, or in my companions either, like I was watching a porno and this is what I'm like, what? That was just weird.
It was
It was just a
weird and it's just
weird way to open the
unnecessary.
movie.
It
Yeah,
like
it
I
was just a
said,
weird way to open.
it kind of set up some things later on in the movie, but at the same time, that wasn't very necessary.
I don't think
They
so
could have went
either.
another direction, and so I'd say that that wasn't very true to a missionary experience. That was like the first thing I'm like, okay, we're up for it's gonna be a bad movie if this is how they think missionaries are talking and interacting.
Right.
But
Yeah.
from there we get I think that was one of the more fun sequences of them just kind of like walking around and talking after they got over the dumb monologue, like them just talking about being missionaries and kind of wandering around until they see these girls and she's like, "Oh, I love them already. They're such great girls." And then the girls come and want to take a picture with them, and then they ask the question, "Is it true?" And they're like, "Is what true? That you wear magic underwear?" And then they pants one of the sister missionaries and
Yeah.
looked like she was
Just
wearing garments too, you know. So it's like, oh,
sure.
that was a little dicey for them to throw that in the movie, you know. And here's another unrealistic thing. If that would have happened, they would not have continued working that day. their their mission day would have been over. And this movie
You
doesn't
think
happen.
so?
Like appointments are canceled. They're meeting with the mission president. That would not be a like not I'm not this is not suggesting that sister missionaries are like fragile little butterflies. Foreshadowing. But that would have merited a discussion and I just don't think they would have kept working that day. Would you is that fair to say?
I can see I see your argument. Yeah, there's a good chance that
Blessings would
could have ruined
happen,
their
meetings
whole
with the
day.
mission president and his wife, like that would have been that's traumatic for anybody, but especially for a missionary.
Unless if that's something they encounter every day where they get harassed every day and they're just like, it's just another day.
Yeah,
It's
maybe.
just another day.
Maybe I had a very sheltered mission, but that's how I saw that. But anyway, that kind of leads to them just it seems like the tone changes after that experience. And then they go and meet Mr. Reed. And I was a little confused. Did they have an appointment with him or were they just following up with him? It didn't seem
I
like they
think
had an
they were
appointment.
just, I think there was, I feel like he said he wanted, was that at Costco or something?
I can't
That they
remember.
bumped him at Costco and he wanted more
Well, he
information?
like sent like almost like he sent a referral to himself. Like he had
Maybe.
interest in having them come by at some point
Yeah. So
because
they were
the
basic. My understanding, they were more or less just following up on the lead. So I don't think they
yeah
had a set appointment.
right
It was just like, hey, you, and I think they did that well. My wife left the theater and she said that, and we had the rule too. We couldn't go into a apartment or a
hmm
house with a single lady. There had
correct
to be another male there. And so the sisters have the opposite rule where they have to have a female there with them. And if
which
there's
is
a single
accurate. Yeah,
guy,
that was good.
yeah, so that was
Except I
good.
don't think they
But my wife
they
is
might
like,
want not
oh,
went in if they hadn't seen the
well,
lady.
right. Well, my wife is like, oh, I wouldn't have gone in until I knew the wife was there. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's what they did a really good job. Yeah, jube. They did a job of it. They did a job of it of justifying it because it was raining, it was cold. The girls are just like, oh, and they even say too, right? Like, we're not coming inside because your wife needs to be here or something like that.
hmm
And that's when he's like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. And without seeing her, they're like, okay, we're just gonna have to trust this guy because let's get out of the cold. Let's get out of the rain. We're getting
Right,
drenched. Where I think if it was a sunshining day, they would have just said, no, we'll wait, right?
right.
So she comes to the door. And
Yeah, and I
so
think
that's maybe their why they got in trouble because it was rainy and cold
it didn't
and
follow the
snowy or whatever it was.
rules. And if you don't follow the rules,
Right.
one thing I thought was kind of cool too, and I remember turning to my wife and be like, that was funny, is that so there's Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. What was her name?
Sounds right.
The one with the dark hair, she seemed more knowledgeable and like she'd been in the mission longer. And the other one just seemed like really overzealous and just like she was a very good sister missionary. I don't know. She was very excited and very energized to do the work. And so she was really nervous when he opened the door and she was like practicing. And then when he opens the door, she basically just like starts kind of teaching the lesson from the beginning. Right. And I was like, that was like she was hitting all the points from the lesson, like talking about dispensations and apostasy and prophets and all this stuff. And I was like, that was pretty funny. That was pretty good. But and then they go in and he's his wife is baking a pie, apparently. He takes their coats and goes to check on his wife and gets them some drinks. And they kind of just start chatting about stuff, church and stuff.
Then he goes to his closet and pulls out a Book of Mormon that's all marked
Marked
up
up.
with bookmarks and all that good things. So he definitely had some knowledge
He did some research.
and
And this is where it kind of like there was he seems very friendly and very excited, and then he kind of has a change in tone, and he starts asking him kind of questions about Joseph Smith and polygamy and why did it change and how can you justify it being spiritual, and all the church leaders want to do was justify their affairs with women, and he just kind of starts. You can tell, like at that point, the sister missionaries are like, we're getting a little uncomfortable with this. Like they still were like talking with him and trying to work through it, but they're also like, this is taking a weird turn.
right.
Yeah, and that's kind of where, if you're not a fan of the anti stuff, he does say some things about like Joseph Smith and some anti the things
Polygamy
that
stuff.
typically comes up with an anti discussion, right? Which is not anything. If you've served a mission, you've probably heard it all. To the sister's point, they do keep insisting to see his wife and to talk to his wife, and he's making excuses, going back to check on her and saying she's nervous
Shy.
and shy, that kind of thing. But he seems very cordial. He's very nice, and
And then he makes them guess what pie she's baking from the smell
mhm.
and the awkward drum roll thing. That was
Yes,
weird.
awkward drum roll. That was a little uncomfortable, a little
Yeah.
cringe, but
Yeah.
also something a missionary 100% would have done.
Probably.
Not me,
Probably.
not me. Maybe that sister missionary that did. They have a weird conversation about fast food that they almost make it seem like the church is against fast food. Did you catch that?
Did he?
Like not outright saying we don't do it, but they're like, yeah, we're supposed to avoid it, not eat that much fast food or whatever. I'm like, that's true. I wouldn't say there's like a doctrine about that.
Right.
But then they do this weird, just really dumb ranking of what's the best fast
Well, the
food.
girl does Burger King's better than this and it's better than that. And then the funny thing is like from being from Ogden, Utah, she did say a few restaurants that aren't prevalent here in Utah that you would
Checkers,
have to Checkers, number yeah, Checkers, Jack in the Box is like brand new to Utah,
right?
right? Well, it had she's too young to remember when it was in Utah years and years ago.
You didn't even mention Crown Burger. Like, is she even from
Yeah, she
Utah?
didn't do yeah, she'd even do stuff like that. So that was just a weird, and then the whole we don't
Taco
talk about
Bell.
Taco Bell. I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah, that was one
But
of
I guess we figure
those
out why
plot
later.
holes, I guess, in the movie. I'm
Yeah.
like, that
I'm
was
like,
really weird
okay.
for them to set it up that way.
And it wasn't like we don't talk about Bruno. Like it wasn't like a joking matter type thing. Like they were serious, like we don't talk about Taco Bell. You're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Awkward moment.
Yes. And it wasn't very it was a weird way that because he asked that
Me
question.
and you don't talk about Taco Bell anymore because of our bad experience with Matt. But
But yes, they didn't explain it until much later on in the movie. Um to be honest, like the beginning of the movie, like it was long, the setup was long, but it was
took a
engaging.
minute.
I was pretty
True.
engaged with it, right? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Like I didn't lose my interest. Like there's
yeah,
definitely
I was getting stressed as it was going on, and as I was like, obviously I knew it wasn't going to end well, right? But as it went on and things got more tense in the room, and the sisters started picking up on little things that they'd see, or things that made him uncomfortable. I was like, oh
I
man, this
mean,
is
but I don't,
scary.
and going back to Hugh Grant, like he did such a good job. Where for a minute, I'm like, is he going to kidnap them? Is
Right.
like, or is he going to play like a mind game with them? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Which he did. So I was like, huh, maybe this movie's different than I thought it was going to be. But then yeah, it turned out to be what you thought it was going to be. Because you like don't know if you like him or if he's a good guy, bad guy. Because he was so like
It's friendly
nice,
and welcoming.
friendly and nice and trusting too, right?
Right.
I would say if your lights are on a timer, that should be flag number one.
Agreed.
Kidding.
Yeah, so
Even
he's
though
got
I
his
want
lights on a
that so
timer.
bad.
Huh?
Nothing to do with the show, but I would love Snowbird when we go to Iron Blossom. They do have like this heating light that I sometimes use at night when I go to the bathroom because you can turn it and it's on a timer and then it turns
Hmm.
off. And I'm like, I would love that just for my bathrooms to be able to let the kids go in and they turn it on and then it light will turn off if they forget, which they always do. Or having the motion sensor lights, I guess that's the alternative. But
Yeah.
it looked like his place was a little bit old school, old technology.
Yeah. And so at the beginning, when they come in, he mentions, and I thought when he first said it, I was like, that was a weird comment. He says, "Is it okay that
Right.
there's metal in the walls?" And I'm like, that was a weird question that they didn't really respond to. And then
They're like, yeah,
you come to find out that the metal in the walls means that you don't get cell service, right?
right.
And so at one point, at whatever happens, like the lights turn off, he turns them back on. Um, he says, "Okay, I'll show you my wife. Come with me, and I'll show you to her." They're like, "Okay, sure." They're like, "Let's make up an excuse. We're getting a call from the Relief Society. We need to answer this, right?" And they fake a phone call, and they're like, "We got to get out of here because this, I mean, these sisters were not following the spirit. Just gonna say from the get-go, they would have, they wouldn't have been in this position, but they were." Trying to make up an excuse and then they are trying to get out. They just try to leave, which I was like, yeah, that was very logical for them to try and do because they were in a bad situation, but they couldn't get the door open, which you come to find out is because the door is also on a timer with the lights. And he said that one of his reasons was he forgot to reset it. So the door was going to stay locked until the morning. So they'd have to go out the back.
Yep.
So they kind of freak out, realize they don't have the key even to unlock their bikes that are locked out front, and they can't get out. So they kind of just have to trust and walk in. And they walk through this dark room, obviously, because the lights have gone out. And they just have to walk through this scary hallway. And they think he's like standing at the end of it, but it's just a statue. And then they go in and they meet him in what looks like a
His little
church,
chapel.
his little
Yeah, little
chapel,
chapel.
and let the games begin. Huh?
Right.
In the
And then
previews it shows pretty quickly, like you don't see all the lead up to it, but he basically has two doors and he has them pick belief or unbelief, right? But there's a lot more that leads up to
disbelief.
that. Yeah,
Belief or
belief or
disbelief.
disbelief, right? A lot that leads up to it. He has an analogy about monopoly. So like the Bible being monopoly, the
And then
or the Quran is, I think the Quran's
well, yeah,
monopoly,
the three religions, Christianity,
Judaism and
Judaism, and
Islam.
Islam. And then he gives an analogy of like how each one of their scriptures is a different version of Monopoly.
Hmm.
And then, but Monopoly actually was plagiarized
Yeah, the
from
landlord
another
game or
game,
something.
something like that.
So that's Judaism is the original, and then Christianity was the monopoly, the one that came and
Monopoly,
replaced it, took all the credit, and then Islam was the like up
updated Monopoly.
updated version, and then he brings up the Book of Mormon and compares that to like the Bob Ross version of Monopoly, like the zany regional
Yeah, oh
version.
yeah,
Like, okay, that was kind of funny, but also quite a little bit of a dig, you know?
yeah, yeah.
But he's showing them all these I think he's like showing them kind of a slideshow. He's got all these pictures of the different versions of Jesus that there have been, saying there's all these, everybody's claimed to have a virgin birth with powers to heal and do X, Y, and Z. And so how can you say that yours
Well,
is,
not necessarily Jesus, just other gods, right?
yeah, other gods, right?
And like mythology
Right. Even
type
like
stuff.
back to ancient Egypt and stuff had one.
And
And
then
so
he's
that
like,
was,
"Well, who's?" And there's they say, "Who's to say like 2,000 years from now you're going to be worshiping Jar Jar Binks from
oh yeah,
Episode One of
that was
Star
funny.
Wars?"
I like that.
So, which is funny for us as I don't know if you're too young, but like everybody used to compare the Star Wars trilogy before Episode One came out to the gospel,
Hmm.
it's like, and then Episode One actually did come out like the year I left on my mission, and then it was on video for my second year, and we were allowed to watch it because of quote unquote
The connections.
the the connections to the priesthood. So yeah, so I think it's kind of funny that he used that reference,
I don't think that was that was a
what he
deep
was getting
cut.
at.
That was a deep cut for the filmmakers, but we got it, and we're like, oh, good job. You got something, or some of our mythology right.
There you go.
That's funny. But kind of from there, I think his sister
He's
called her.
basically telling him you can't leave out the front door, but yeah, you have the choice. You can leave. Like I'm
Right.
not stopping you.
He's like, I've made you feel
Um,
welcome. Like, has Vi done anything that makes you feel like I'm not
like I'm pressuring you.
I'm pressuring you, right?
Like there's no pressure.
But then he
And
calls
then
their
he also said
bluff,
he calls her, yeah, well then he get kind of mad at them like you didn't have to lie about your phone call
right?
because I know you didn't make a phone call because cell phones don't work in here. But
I
that's
asked you
okay.
about the metal in the
That's okay.
doors, right?
And you said
In the
yeah.
windows or
But
the walls,
again, you can just leave. Like he's trying to use the whole free will, right? You have the free
right?
will to make your decision and leave, but the only way to leave is through the back door. And did you see my house from the front? You know the way it looks. I thought that was a
I've got this
weird
back,
questions he's asking too.
right?
Like, do you think they really like wandered around your house to look at your whole property when
Hmm.
you're out in the woods, it looked like?
Well, they didn't because he mentions that it's like a cliff, so there's no back basically.
Yeah.
And so he tells her to come over and just open the doors. And once the one sister missionary, this was kind of funny, and also I was kind of like, that was dumb. She goes to the disbelief. She's like, all right, cool. Like, we see your point. We'll think about it. You know, you're very smart. And we're just gonna say we don't believe anymore. So we're gonna go through the disbelief door. And the other sister's like,
That's what you want
no,
us to do, right?
right. Yeah, because she thinks that's the way out, is that that he proved him wrong, right? And the other sister's like, no, that's not. He's not going to just let us out like that. That's not his game. He's like studying us. And she looks through both doors actually, and both lead to a basement, not out out the door like you'd want to believe. But the funny thing was when the sister was doing that, she's like, sister, let's choose the right. From primary, choose the right, and she kind of like was singing the
Yeah.
song. I was like, oh my gosh, it was so bad, so cringe. But it was also kind of funny that they included that. Yeah, they both end up going down to the belief door. But I
Because
think,
like, what do they do? I mean, they can't, he won't, they even asked to use his phone. He says, I don't have one.
mhm,
They, what do you do?
there's nothing they can do. They can't get out the door.
There's nothing you can
They're gonna
do.
fight
You
him.
can't get out the door. And that's the one thing too, like, and then you don't feel he hasn't really threatened them yet.
Yeah,
So what do you do? I mean, they show an envelope opener
right.
that could be used
They
as a
showed a couple
knife, and you're
times.
like, so the whole time I'm like, oh, well, if you stab him or whatever, has he done anything wrong yet?
Hmm. Yeah,
So tough situation. But they go down the belief door, and it turns out both doors led to the same place, right?
right,
And now they're trapped in this cave-looking, castle, dungeon-looking
right.
basement,
What a weird house this guy has. And then they finally get their chance to eat blueberry pie.
kind of.
This
So there
lady,
was blueberry pie. He wasn't lying. There was
there was
blueberry pie.
blueberry pie. This lady, really creepy lady, comes out, brings out some pie, and puts it on the table. And then she just kind of like almost starts convulsing on the ground or something. She's just like laying on the ground.
Oh, it's like praying or something, right?
Yeah, doing
Like she
something.
just bends over and
And then you start hear him talking, and he's kind of like telling them what's going to happen. And this is where one of the jump scares happens. Like they're looking through like the speaker thing, and then like a spider jumps out or something. I was like, oh, that kind
yeah.
of got me
What was
good.
the point of that too?
There's no point, but it was just for a jump
Okay.
scare in the movie. And he's telling them that she's a prophet, right? And he's found the one true religion. And if they are there, they're gonna witness a miracle because she's gonna eat this pie, which is poisoned basically, and she's gonna come back to life. She starts digging in, eats the pie, and then she dies. And they need to check her pulse and everything. And he's
To verify she's actually dead
yeah, make sure she's
and that
dead.
she's breathing.
Mm-hmm. And they do that, and then at that point, so it shows the scenes of the elder who's waiting for them, and he's like
Okay.
cleaning
Well,
the
here's the deal.
church.
The elders, yeah, he's cleaning the church, like mopping, and there's like a schedule for like out the day of who needs to be cleaning the church. And I'm like, really? Like, did they live there? And that's where they,
So the sister missionaries
because
live in
it
a
seriously made it
convent.
look like, yeah, that's what it kind of felt like. And like, oh, they didn't feel the responsibility of cleaning the church today. I'm like, huh?
Yeah,
So that was
just them
awkward.
referencing him as the elder was just so like, uncomfortable for me. I'm like, there's not just an elder; it's the elders. There's going to be two of them. If
Yeah, that's where they got wrong is like there's no companion. So is he
hmm
supposed to be the mission president, which I don't believe he was
right,
the mission
and it's not like
president.
he was a young guy either, and they wouldn't have two other elder missionaries come and check up
Okay,
on the
okay,
sisters.
okay. You were a leader in your mission, right?
Uh-huh.
If the sister missionaries didn't come home, would you even know?
No, I wouldn't know.
There's no way to know, right? Because you
It's
didn't
not like you
check in
check
with
in
them
every
every
night.
day,
Maybe some
every night, right?
missions, maybe some.
Maybe they do. So I thought that was so, but they had to figure out that somebody would be missing them somehow. So,
This was a great movie, but I think we could have come up with a much more logical reason why he would have been there looking for them.
right.
I think with our knowledge, we could have done a better job. But just saying. I need some time to think about it. But yeah, they had to find a way for him to get there, and so it's also a little strange. She had the information of this guy's some random referrals house, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
like
How do they know?
he was going to specific houses to look for him, and it's
Well,
not
I
like
guess maybe the
he would have had
sisters
their
have to give
schedule.
their schedule.
Maybe if that was the case, but I never did anything like that. We never would have done anything like that.
Maybe that's a newer thing to make sure if they know
Make sure they're
where the
safe.
sisters are at.
Yeah. So he comes to the door, and that distracts Hugh Grant. He has to go open the door and fix it so he can open the door because it really is on a timer, but he has a way around that, obviously. And then he talks to him and um, points out that they're not there. And all this time, they're trying to get this box of matches that had been dropped so that they can,
Well, they're also trying to scream so that he could,
yeah. So
because
he would hear him.
he comes to the door twice. So the first time they're screaming, and then the second time they're getting the matches, right?
Yeah. The second time he comes back was pretty funny. So he leaves and then he comes back and the guy's like, "What? What do you need now?" And he's like,
Thinking that, oh, they figured it out, they're
"Yeah,
here.
yeah." I'm like, he's gonna kill him. He's like, "I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a question. Have you heard about our gospel or whatever?"
Like,
And he's like,
has anybody given you this pamphlet before?
"Yeah, yeah, that's right."
Which he says no, but he tells his sister missionaries because they ask him too, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, I've had this before, but
Hmm.
can never have too many.
Yeah, but I did think it was funny that he's like, "I need to go back and I need to share the message. That's my job." That was
Yeah,
pretty good because I did do things like that on my mission. I was like, "Yeah, that was accurate." I went back because I didn't share the message when I should have or whatever.
sure.
And so it's enough time they are able to get some matches, and as they are trying to use them to I don't know what were they trying to do with the matches? Smoke themselves out? Like what was
They
the
were, yeah,
purpose?
they're trying to light the place on fire because, well, I think originally if there's the place is on fire, then their elder would
Hmm.
notice the place on fire, but maybe causing an emergency would make him have to call the fire department or do something
It wasn't a good strategy anyway.
to so no, well he comes downstairs, right? And he's like, "Oh, here, let me help you." And
Yeah, and he grabs the
lights the
match.
matches for him.
But another jump
But
scare is the lady, isn't
who
she like
died?
who died is like standing behind her as she lights the match and she like turns around and
Yeah.
she's like, ah.
Yeah.
So she came back to life.
But she also, when they come back downstairs, notice, I think the first time, right? No. When they do to get the matches, come downstairs, the one missionary says, the lady moved, the dead lady
Oh
moved.
yeah, she was in a different spot.
And so,
Yeah, and he kept asking
and
because he's
then,
like, "Did she move? Has she moved yet?" And then he gets distracted and he's not able to finish what he was trying to do. But the lady moves and she comes, in air quotes, comes back to life. They witness the miracle, and he's trying to convince them basically, if she was able to do that, so can you. So do the same thing, and you'll become a miracle. You'll come back to life. He wants them to basically kill themselves, right?
and the sister
And
missionary's like, oh, so I've been trying to figure out how you're going to kill us, but how you're going to do it is make us
make us
kill
kill
ourselves.
ourselves, right? And they're not down for that. Also, so stemming back from the earlier fun scene with them pulling her underwear down, they ask if it was magic underwear, right? Because that's always the thing. One of the things that's the common tropes, common things they say about the church is we wear magic underwear. And they had the letter opener. They actually did take it, and the code word to if they needed to use it was magic underwear. So as they're kind of having this discussion with him, she's like, "Yeah, we need to do this." And as she's trying, the sister missionary tries to tell the other one to stab him, basically, that's when he does it himself and he slits her throat, which
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't see that coming either. I guess that's maybe one of the kind of jump scares. You're like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I thought they make it think that she cut his throat, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
I think they were trying to make you think. I'm like, how does she slit his throat with an envelope open? You
Yeah,
know? And it turns out he had a razor.
just slit her right down the middle, and then she's just like bleeding out, and he's like, "Oh." And this is probably the most gory scene in the movie, which I didn't even I couldn't watch it. Is he opens her arm up and pulls out
Or birth control.
a birth control thing, and he says, "Oh, she's not going to come back to life because she's a simulation. She's a robot or whatever."
But and that's the thing too. He does notice when they're on the couch upstairs, the scar from the birth control.
Oh,
So he knew,
yeah. And the thing we missed was he said she was keeping a secret, and that he says that was a secret, but she says the reason they don't talk about Taco Bell is because when she was like a kid, like everybody in her class got E. coli and a couple kids died, but she died and came back to life
yeah,
or something like that. So she's been on the other side before. She's seen what's there basically, and
right.
and yeah, so he knew about the birth control thing. But then here's another thing they miss. They make it seem like members of the church can't have birth control because um the other sister missionary says, yeah, it wouldn't have she wouldn't have wanted people to know. She would have been ashamed for people to know she's on birth control. Which there's plenty of I don't think it's against the church to have birth control. I mean it's not, right? People are on birth
Right.
control. The other
Right.
thing,
There's some extremists that would maybe
right.
argue differently, you know?
But the crazy thing is, um, it wouldn't even be an issue on your mission because you're not having sex.
Right.
But also, why would that? But there's plenty of people that like they do birth control for like other reasons than actual just preventing birth, right? So
Right.
that was kind of a that was just kind of a weird logic and a
Yeah.
weird thing they used. I was like, yeah, we can use birth control and we wouldn't be ashamed to do it. But also at the same time, why would that even be a question on her mission? Because she's not, you know what I mean? It was just kind
But
of
doesn't he make it sound like she's not a real person? Like she
mhm.
was
That was his
like,
point. Like she was like a almost like she's a robot, and that's why she can't come back to life. So, and she just lays there dead. I'm like, dang, did not see that coming that one of them was gonna die.
right.
But if you are squeamish, definitely you don't want to watch him opening her arm up to pull it out. That was
Oh,
that
that's
was
vague.
brutal. That was brutal. Um, and then from there, the other sister, she's like, well, the reason why the other lady came back is because she's a different lady, and this she didn't really come back to life. And so she finds a trap door underneath the table. And he's like, all right, you're right, maybe, but go downstairs
Yeah,
and
because she decides the only way to get out of this is to outsmart him or
right.
have an intelligent battle with him.
And that's what the other sister told her to do.
Right. So yeah, she finds the trap. Well, then she has a theory that he switched the bodies. The
Right.
lady that ate the pie died. He hid a body somewhere,
But
and
he messed up
then
because of
she
the other
finds.
elder coming.
Yeah, but that's my question too. If the elder doesn't come, how is he going to switch out the bodies? Was he going to distract them another way?
Probably. Yeah, it doesn't really say. So she's gonna find the true religion if she goes downstairs. She goes down, sees a body down there, right? And then she goes through all these doors. It seemed really weird that she went through so many doors, didn't it? There's like all these like religious
Yeah, like how big is
things.
this compound that he lives in?
I was thinking it was going to go the direction of like it was something satanic, is what I thought. Because you like see all these doors with like these kind of pentagram looking things on them. I'm like, oh,
Right.
it's Satan's the true religion or something. That was where I was guessing it was going to go. But then she gets to the final room and it's locked with their bike lock. And he did switch the keys in their coats, so they finally get their coats, but she didn't have the key, but now she did because he knew that he was going to kill the other sister, I guess. So she unlocks the
Or did he
padlock,
just,
or
was
did he
that
just
it?
mess
Or did he
up?
just forget which code it came out of?
Yeah, it could have been that
Because he
too.
had to go move the bikes, right? Because somebody came looking for him and they see the bikes there. So
Right.
that's what's interesting too, is how the girl seemed not super bright. They make her sound not super bright, and
Hmm.
that she's so excited to have a baptism and all this stuff. But yet at the end, she's super smart and she was super observant that she knew he went outside.
Yeah.
And like, but you didn't act any different. You did your drum roll still, right? Or is that before? Anyways,
Yeah. A little shoddy logic.
some weirdness. But it kind of felt like when she's going through the rooms, didn't you feel like she's going through like a haunted house, like
Yeah,
Nightmare on 13th or something?
it did. So that's what I thought. I was like, it's gonna be Satan. Like Satan's gonna be down there. And she's like, yep, this is the true religion. I don't know. That is just I guess I wasn't didn't have my discerning movie hat on because I thought it was going a completely
Yeah,
different
well,
way.
this is where, yeah, like till she starts going down that tunnel. As soon as she goes down the tunnel, the movie takes a weird turn, and I think it kind of gets messed up from there.
So
So up
she
to that
goes
point, which
in.
is really
Oh,
like
it's really good up to that point.
we're like 80% through the movie at this point, right? There's not a whole bunch of time left
Hmm.
after this part, so good up to that point.
She opens the door and it's full of cages of similar looking women to the one that died and ate the pie, right?
Yeah, like
Um,
incubator or a
it's almost like they're like in
nursery
a
for
yeah, and it keeps spraying them with water and stuff. She's like, that's kind of weird.
keeps them cold enough to where they can barely move or something. And
Mm. And
but
then
how did those women get there? How so
and
many questions.
why so many women? If he just was trying to trick one group, or maybe he's tricked other groups of people to do the same thing, and that was ultimately his goal was to make her one of these women and lock her in a cage.
Right.
But Sister Paxton or whatever her name was realizes, which good job, I guess, because I didn't realize this, that the one true religion is control. Control is the true religion, and that's what all religions do is just try to control you and tell you what to do. And that's what he's doing with all these women. He's just controlling them. And to the point where they want to be there. Basically, they appreciate being there because that's how he's
But
controlled
then he
them.
like cuts this one of the lady's nails and then cuts off her finger. I'm like, what? Why? What was the point
Because
of that?
the reason was because the when the prophet lady she read something that he'd written for her, and part of it she said it's all fake or it's not real, and then
Oh, was
she
that
knew
the girl?
I don't know if it might have been, yeah, it could have been her. So it must have been the same one. So he was punishing her because she like was trying to tell him, hey, this is not real. But he tried to spin that as it's not real, the religion thing. But what she was trying to say was this is all fake. Like it's not real.
Fake
So
money.
so then they just keep talking and he's still spinning his web. And at some point he uses the code word, which was I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. He uses the code word of magic underwear, at which point she stabs him through the throat because she got the code word. And then she runs away, runs to like the other exit, and she's trying to basically just get out of the house at that point, right? And then she goes back down to the same spot, and she's like gonna go through the trap door again, and then he comes back and he stabs her
Stomach.
and in the stomach, right? One other thing we should mention is that she said if she when she died, she'd come back as a butterfly, which is also not
Belief.
a belief, reincarnation. Maybe she could send a butterfly as a sign if you're going to use our logic, but we don't preach that you're going to become a different thing after this life. So she says
Right.
she's going to come back as a butterfly, and then she's like laying there next to the other sister and just kind of telling him he failed, he was wrong, and even if this wasn't all real, like it's better.
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
really weird because she tells him a study that was done on prayer,
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
these focus groups, and basically the end result is that prayer doesn't work.
Right.
And then she starts praying.
But she says she
But
thinks
I
it's
guess that
beautiful.
she's making the points like, oh, I do it because it makes me feel better. I'm doing this because I feel like I'm helping people. It's like, okay, that's a valid point. And then he comes over and looks like he's gonna like basically make out with her or something weird. But really he's just
Wants to kill
gonna
her, finish the
he
job.
wants to kill her, finish the job, and she's praying the whole time. And then dun dun dun. They kind of foreshadows before because when they go down, we have to go back to the beginning. When they go down to the cellar, they try to like climb with this window, and she breaks off a piece of wood that has three nails
Mm.
sticking out of it, and then she hides it. So you know that's going to come into play. So the other sister who's bleeding out somehow gets the energy to hit the guy with the nail board, kills him,
And then she
and
dies
then
for
she
real.
just falls over dead.
So
And
here's where it's faith promoting because you got the real miracle. Sister Barnes came back to life. There was the miracle. Number two, her prayer worked because it brought her back to life and rescued her.
hmm, good point. I never thought of that.
But then, just as typical horror movies do, it leaves a little bit. Was this real, or did she really just die? Because after that happens, she finds he had like a diagram of the house and like where they
Oh,
would be and
in
stuff.
his chapel room thingy.
Yeah. So
Because
she
she's able to
finds
get into
that.
that room now, right? Because that
Right.
door's open.
And she finds like how she would be able to get out, which I didn't understand how she like pulled the thing out and saw that that was the way out. She just went out a window, right?
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. So she gets out the window and she's just kind of like running and then everything's kind of clear. The sky is cleared because it was like, snow and everything before, but now it's cleared. It's daytime and everything's okay. And then she sits on the ground and she's got a butterfly on her finger.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's
So
gone.
is that supposed to be her companion or
So was it
her?
her companion or was it like kind of the prophet? What she said was like there was just clouds and stuff, but there wasn't really anything else. It was just kind of peaceful. So she could have just died and imagined all that, right? And saw the butterfly when there really wasn't one. Or everything else happened and her faith and her prayer everything really did work, and she was able to escape. So it just
We
kind of
don't
leaves you.
know.
It leaves you there at the end. It's like Inception, right? Leaves you
Yeah,
with a
that's where like that whole last 20% of the movie, I think they could have done it differently.
they could have done it better.
And to make us all feel better and not so depressed when we left the movie,
Yeah,
it
right.
would have been nice if they could have had it to where she does get out and she calls for help and she saves her
Or saves your
companion
companion.
and herself, and then the guy is dead.
Yeah.
So, but maybe that's not what they were going for, trying something different.
But
And
overall, that's the movie.
that's it. Pretty straightforward, pretty predictable.
Honestly, as I was watching it, I was thinking this might be my new favorite scary movie. I was like, this is so good, and I'm so
Over
stressed,
Hereditary,
unbelievably stressed out. What's that?
over
Over,
Hereditary.
yeah, even over Hereditary. But I was like, the feelings I'm getting from this movie are so real and scary,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
like this
then they
could be
ruin
real.
it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah.
it's a bad movie. I still thought it was a good movie, but it went from being super
They needed to
awesome.
make it a little bit more realistic towards the end. And I think they could have done something different with the prophet thing. I didn't really enjoy that too
Yeah, it was
much.
weird.
So if they could have done something different with that and make it more real and then just a way for them to escape. Maybe they even had to even kill the sister missionaries, but just make it a whole game of almost like an escape room type thing, right? But we're doing
Right.
this based off religion.
Hmm.
So you got to make your choices and make your point that way.
Yeah, maybe he didn't end up being a killer at the end. He just was trying to make them stop believing.
Yeah, yeah, trying to make a point.
I think it was good. If you've got to this point and you've heard all the spoilers, you probably don't need to see it. I mean, I think you still should. I think it's still enjoyable. But if you've already seen the movie, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. What did you think? And also how many people are actually thinking of going to see this movie, especially with the church kind of maybe that's more for non-believers to see this movie and be like, is that what missionaries are like? Is that what the mission's like?
Right.
Because with us within it, like we're able to see through, like, yeah, that's not right, that's not true, you know, all those kinds of things. It didn't really teach me anything about the church, right? It didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. So it's probably more for those outside to see this and think. But I still at the same time, I feel like they didn't really paint us in a bad light. There wasn't anything that was like, oh, look how stupid the church is. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the focus was to bash the church. It was to shine light on religion as a whole. And the church was just the easiest way to make it happen. That's only so yeah. So it's not a anti-Mormon film by any mean.
Right.
It's more of a trying to make you think about religion and as a whole.
And maybe it'll have the same effect as they did reference the Book of Mormon musical in the movie, and they talked about how
Oh yeah.
the sister said she didn't like it. The other one's like, I've heard some of the songs, they're pretty good. I'm like, same, agreed. But that movie, or when the musical came out, it led a lot of people to the church. Like the church bought ad space in the program in the playbill to like advertise. You've
But
seen
they were also kind of, weren't they at the beginning kind of like against it? Like,
they were, but they're like, well, there's nothing we can do, so we're gonna promote ourselves through this. And so, like, I think they had a tagline in like the playbill, like you've always heard the book's better than the movie or the play, right? So you've seen
yeah,
this, now go read the actual book. I could see it having a similar effect. Like there wasn't anything objectionable per se about the church in this, so maybe it'll lead people to be like, oh, those they seem pretty normal, like normal missionaries, they normal people, right? So maybe it'll have that effect that the church would benefit from. But I think overall it's just a fun movie. I think it's fun to see the church represented, even if it's not always in the best way. But again, I don't think this was a bad way to represent the church.
no, no. Is there a movie that has missioners in it that you're like, okay, that's more realistic to my mission experience?
This is probably, outside of being a church movie, the most realistic I've seen, right?
Real, well, realistic movie or
Realistic, like showing
missionary
how the
experience?
church actually is, outside
Okay.
of like a best 2 years or something, right? Like
Yeah.
Hollywood representing the church, this was probably the closest
Well,
representation.
Hollywood. Okay, I'll take that. But I was gonna say the best 2 years, even out of the Mormon films or whatever, you're like, like God's Army. It's been a long time, but I was like, that didn't feel really like my mission at all. The best two
Hmm.
years was probably the most realistic. We're like, okay, that's what it kind of more or less felt like. But
Right. And it's not like over the top, like a singles ward or the RM or something.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
this one probably is of Hollywood representing us. It again, there's definitely things they got wrong, but it's probably the most accurate to a mission and of how the church is.
right,
It's the closest they've got so far, I'll say. It's better
fair
than
enough.
the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. It's a better depiction than that is of the church.
Yeah, I still haven't. I've only seen like them on an interview, and I haven't watched any of the show. But yeah, I'm
This is better.
just hearing that it's just different. So
Yeah.
and a lot of the active sisters in our church are not loving
How
the
they're
story they're
portraying it.
telling, portraying the way, making it sound like this was the way all members think, and
Yeah,
it's not true. But one thing we failed to mention, Brandon, turns out the Sister Missionaries didn't break the rules. There was other ladies in the house,
that's true. That's a good point.
so they are obedient, and they still die.
Well, let us know what you think. If you saw the movie, if you're gonna see it, let us know. Did you think it did a good job? Do you think it's
Did you like it, or did you
did
love
you
it, or do you
like
think
it?
it's just okay?
Exactly. And I'll give another plug because I feel like we've been seeing a lot of messages coming in from people. We love to get the messages. If you suggest episodes, great. We'll try and do them. We recently saw one for us to do Zion's, which I'd love to do. My question is, do we need to go together to Zion's before we do an episode on it, or do we just draw from the internet and our previous experiences?
I've been down there a few times,
I haven't been there in a long time. I know you go there around that area more frequently than I do,
about
but
once a year.
that's one we got to do. We've done Bryce, but we need to do Zion's. But yeah, there's a if you go to wherever you're listening to us, there's a link to send us a text message. It won't tell us your name or any information other than the last four of your phone number. So if you want to let us know who you are, what you think of the show, whether good or bad, we love getting those messages and keep them coming. You can also comment on our episode if you use at least Spotify. So that's a new thing you can do. Leave comments on what you think. But we are not opposed to getting more feedback. We love to hear from the fans. So thanks for sticking with us. If you've stuck with us for this whole probably hour and a half at this point, this is a long
2 hour
one.
rant.
Been a long one, but thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
And this was a movie we just talked about.